Made my first float when I was a kid, probably no more than 10. We used to go to London Zoo and get peacock quills and make the most amazing floats that in truth were absolute rubbish.
Looking into the pole float market was just natural progression for Guru. We've done a lot on the feeder side of things, so it's about time we looked at the pole side of the market.
I've always been serious about making any floats because I've never been happy with what you can buy. When I had the opportunity to leave work where I was an IT manager for British Telecom, I went down Whiteacres for the October festivals with a big box full of floats. I came back with about £5 in my pocket. And from that day to this, making floats is what I've done.
When Mick decided to get involved with the Guru pole float manufacturing, I wanted him at the forefront of everything. This man knows how to make floats, so I wanted to get him involved from the very start, including material choice, even down to what glue we used, the whole process, to be involved and to teach the team all the little tricks that he's learned over the years of how to produce the perfect pole float.
I'd say 99% of my pole fishing over the years has been done with Mick Wilkinson floats. I think what sets Mick Wilkinson floats apart is the strength, durability and their versatility. Every pattern in the Mick Wilkinson range has been developed for a specific job, and you know that if Mick's designed it, it's going to be done right.
It's helped both ways working with some of the best anglers in the country. An example with Steve Ringer is I did him a batch and he sent them back saying the tip has got to be 2 mils shorter. You can't get any fussier than that.
Over the years I've been quite hands-on with Mick developing patterns. I've often gone to Mick with an idea and then he's come up with a pattern, I've tested it, tweaked it until we got it absolutely perfect. I think over the years, one of the big selling points with mixed floats has always been strength. I do a lot of commercial fishing, catching a lot of carp. I need a float that's not going to let me down, and that's why I've always gone for Mick Wilkinson's.
When we made the big step to go into production in the UK, making pole floats in-house, I thought it'd be quite a simple process. Follow Mick's lead and we'd be well away, but we come across lots and lots of issues. Stepping up the amount of floats we had to make bigger machines, we had to buy so much material to produce these floats, and even just cutting the material, we've had to buy machines for that. It's been a big, hard, long, drawn-out process, which has given me lots of sleepless nights just trying to get the floats to the standard that Mick expects.
We've spent the last 2 years trying to perfect the art of making these floats. They're a very difficult float to manufacture. Each float pattern is completely unique. The first process is we get the foam and we put it onto our large cutting machine and we cut it into individual billets ready to go into the lathes. We take each billet after it's come off of the cutting machine and it's fed into the lathes, and each body is individually crafted. After the body's come out of the lathe room, it goes on to the team in production, and each body is individually glued onto its very own stem. After the body's been glued and it's dried, it then goes into our Julie's paint room, where it has up to 9 coats of individual paint applied to it. This is probably one of the trickiest processes, is getting the painting right. If you don't use the right amount of paint, if the speed of the painting's wrong, the float is ruined. Through lots of trial and error and lots of tweaking, we've now absolutely nailed it. After painting and the float's fully dried, the floats go over to one of 3 of my members of the team. They need to have the tips and the eyes fitted by hand. We use the strongest glue on the market to make sure the floats are as robust as they can possibly be. The next stage is each float goes into our print room. Every float is individually hand printed on our pad print machine with the Guru logo and the size of the float. After the paint's dried, each float is passed on to Jill, who does our packing. Each float is hand packed and put into the box as safely as it can possibly be. Now, after all these processes and all the blood, sweat and tears that's gone into making these floats, it's important that all of the floats reach the shops in perfect condition.
One of the great things about Mick Wilkinson floats is his attention to detail. If you get a float that says 0.3 gram, it takes exactly 0.3 gram. So if I'm fishing at the highest level, setting up 2 or 3 duplicate rigs, I know each one's going to fish exactly the same, and that for me is a massive edge.
In my experience, a good pole float is a compromise. Balance, strength and functionality. There's a multitude of floats out there, but most of them are not used for what they're designed for.
One aspect of the floats that had a lot of debate in the meetings was the body colour, and we've settled on a nice heron grey because that was the most discreet underwater without being off-putting to the eye.
The thing that makes a handmade float so good is the detail on them. The eye, the bristle, the way it's glued in, the time and effort that goes into a float is totally different to a mass-produced float. One of the design features on our floats is that the stem runs all the way through the body into the bristle. What this means is it gives you ultimate strength throughout the float. So whether you're catching big weights of carp or you're catching loads of silverfish, swinging fish to hand, you're never going to worry that your float's going to let you down.
Without a doubt, one of the most important parts has got to be the bristle, and you've got to be able to see it clear in any light, and the paint we've used to paint our bristles in-house is super high vis. You cannot miss them.
You'll often hear anglers say, I like that float because it fishes the same every single time. What they mean by that is when they put the rig in, it cocks the same, it sits nice, and the best way to achieve this is making sure that your stems and your bristles are all cut exactly the same. Because the floats are handmade, we've got full control over all the materials. This means that we can have the same length bristle, the same length stem every single time. This gives you a real good consistency, making sure that every one fishes perfect. For me, presentation is everything, so when it comes to side-eye choice, for me that's really important. A spring eye will never fish as well as a side-eye because it comes off the actual bristle. You want your side-eye coming off the actual body of the float. What this means, when you're laying your rig in, you're not holding onto your bristle, you're not keeping that body riding up out of the water. What we've done with Guru to make the float as strong as possible is sink that side-eye really deep into the float and also use the strongest glue available on the market. What this means that strength is not an issue and you get perfect presentation every time.
For myself and the rest of the team, there's one thing we are really proud of, and it's not actually the pole floats themselves. By manufacturing the floats here in the UK, we've been able to create quite a few jobs, which is brilliant. We've got a great team of people downstairs that have lots of banter. They produce fantastic floats. They've picked up mixed skills really, really quickly. And one thing that I really like is their eye for detail. They're so keen, they're even bringing things to the table themselves. For me, job satisfaction doesn't get any better than that.
I'm 62 years old now. I'm not going to do it forever, but I get great pleasure and joy that Britain's top company want to do my work for me.